Penny here. Today I'm going to be doing the BookTube 20 questions book tag. So I'm going to be answering 20 questions about books. I was tagged in this by Gemma from A Story and a Song, so I will leave her link down below as well as the original blog post for this tag. But let's get into the questions. So the first question is, how many books are too many for a series? Now I read fantasy books which often have a lot of books in the series. I think one of the earliest fantasy series that I picked up was the Valdemar series, and that has a lot of different trilogies and sometimes shorter or longer groupings of books in that bigger world. I feel like I've actually counted them before, but there's at least 30 books, if not 50 books in that world. And for the most part, I think they're all really good stories, or at least they were when I read them. It's been a little while. So I don't know that I feel like there's ever too many books for a series, just in terms of a number that would apply for all series. I do think every story is different, and so the author really needs to correctly divide the story up into different books. You can definitely tell when authors have tried to stretch a story out over more books than a story really needed. We all know there's sequels out there or fourth books in a trilogy that perhaps didn't need to exist. But in general, I just think my answer for this is it depends, and I suspect that's going to be my answer for a few of these questions. For example, the next question is, what do you think about cliffhangers? And it depends. If the story works well with a cliffhanger and I'm not going to have to wait too long till the next book when I find out what's going to happen, then I actually enjoy a good cliffhanger. It makes the book more memorable. The only time it can be a problem is if the author isn't actually able to get to the next book. Also, the case where there's a cliffhanger at the end of a series and then you never find out what happens. That sucks. Not into that. Oh, and I think another thing is that if there's a cliffhanger, you still need to have something wrapped up and resolved. Like if nothing is resolved, then a cliffhanger is probably going to leave you feeling pretty dissatisfied. The next question is hardback or paperback. For this, I actually prefer like these little mass market paperback size ones. I know a lot of people like paperbacks, but they like those floppy paperbacks. I just find those really inconvenient when you're trying to read in bed. And when I'm thinking about the format of book I like, my main concern is how easy is it going to be to read in bed. Hardcovers, far too dangerous. Like they've got sharp corners, and they're very easy to drop onto your face. I'm just not a fan of hardcovers in bed. Big floppy paperbacks, hard to make them actually hold open. These ones, just perfect, and they fit so nicely in your hand. Obviously, really long books, a la Oathbringer, don't work in that style at all, but for the most part, that's my preference. The next question is favorite book, and no, I'm not answering that. I don't have an answer to that question. There are so many books that I have loved. In fact, almost every book on my shelves here is a favorite book. So, I mean, I could go through all of them, but this is going to be a long video if I do that. I just think that even when I compare two books, which I make myself do in my monthly wrap-ups because I do them book battle style, but I hate doing that in some ways because you can have one book that's really strong in some elements and another book that's really strong in different elements, and how are you really supposed to compare them? And there are just so many books that I love for so many different reasons. I just can't pick one, and I refuse to do it. The next question is least favorite book, and for this I'm pretty sure it's the one that I threw in the bin. However, I threw it in the bin because I didn't think that anybody else should ever be subjected to that book, and so I'm not going to say the name of it ever on this channel because I don't want anyone to be tempted to go and look it up and read it, because I don't think you should read it. Don't read it. If you ever find out what it is, don't read it. The next question is love triangles, yes or no? I can't really think of any love triangles that I've particularly enjoyed. I don't particularly like the romance aspects of different stories. I mean, there are some romances I don't mind, but when the romance becomes a key part of the story, that generally just annoys me, and if it's a love triangle, that's normally what's happening, so I'm not usually a fan. I can't think of any love triangle that I've actually liked. So I guess we'll say no, but I mean, I think it's feasible that there could be a love triangle that I wouldn't mind. Maybe. The next question is a recent book you couldn't finish. And for me that would probably be The Burning Stone. If you've been watching my videos, you might have wondered why I stopped mentioning this. Well, I got about halfway through and then I just was not making much progress, and I I do want to finish it. I do. I actually quite enjoy the story, but I'm just not fast at reading this book. I don't know what it is, something about the writing style or the pacing. I just feel like it takes me forever to get through this. So I want to continue this, and I will continue this, but I think I'm just gonna like read one chapter a month or something. And if it takes me 10 years to finish this 7-book series, then I guess it takes me that long, because that's just how we're gonna have to do it. Then the next question is a book you're currently reading. So I'm reading Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. I'm 150 pages in. See, weirdly, these ones I can get through at a sort of decent pace. Not super fast, because there is still a lot to it, and it's very tall. But compared to this book, like where the page size is much smaller, I feel like I take longer to get through a page of this than I do to get through a page of this. And like they're both similar thicknesses. So I think I will get through this much quicker. Also, I'm super excited for this. Whereas this, I'm just like, oh yeah, it's okay. I'm enjoying it. This, I love it. The next question is the last book you recommended to someone. So I was trying to think about this. The easy answer is that I just made a video of my favorite YA books, and so any of those, that's a whole recommendation video. But actual individual recommendations, it's possible I've made some and I just don't remember. I asked my sister what the last book I recommended was to her, and the only one she could think of was the Tea Dragon Society book that I gave to her, but I think I gave that to her for her last birthday, which was a while ago, so who really knows? The next question is the oldest book you read by publication date. So I looked this up on Goodreads. I'm not sure Goodreads has necessarily the oldest book I've read, but according to Goodreads, it's The Tales of the Arabian Nights, which I've forgotten to write down the author again, but it's this translation by this guy. It was written in 1315. To be honest, I only read the first chapter, so it probably doesn't count, but I wanted to read it. It was another one where I wasn't making progress on it, and eventually, after several months, I admitted defeat. Other than that, I also read household stories from the collection of the Brothers Grimm, which was written in 1812. So I read this as part of a Coursera course about the history of fantasy. So Coursera is kind of similar to Skillshare, except that most of the courses are free and a lot of the courses are run by universities. So if you see everyone's ads for Skillshare and you're interested but you can't afford it, you should have a look at Coursera. It's also got a lot of really cool courses, especially if you want like more of an academic spin on things. So as part of that, I read a whole bunch of historical fantasy, including a whole bunch of these Brothers Grimm fairy tales. I can't really remember most of them now because it was a few years ago, but I did enjoy that. I've also read Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, which apparently was written in 1813, so that's pretty old as well. Then the next question is the newest book you've read by publication date, and I'm pretty sure that this is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin, which I read recently. It's a new release this year, all about New York City gaining a consciousness. It was super cool. I really loved it. I do recommend it if you like really weird fantasy science fiction. Then the next question is favorite author, and I'm sure you can tell I'm going to say no. I don't have a favorite author. I refuse to pick just one. There are many authors whose work I love and I count them as one of my favorite authors, but I couldn't pick just one because they all have different strengths and weaknesses. But I guess I could say like some that come to mind because they are here. I really like Brandon Sanderson, Victoria Schwab, Maggie Stiefvater, Ilona Andrews, N.K. Jemisin. I've been loving her stuff lately. Robin Hobb is another really great one. I just feel like once I start saying some of my favorite authors, I realize that I'm probably forgetting lots that I like just as much as the ones I'm saying, and that's why it's better just to say no, I don't have a favorite. I have lots of favorites. Then the next question is buying books or borrowing books. So I really like to borrow books if you're not sure whether you're going to like them or not. I use my library a lot. I would say at least 50%. Actually, that's not true. Probably 50% of the physical books I read are library books, but 100% of the audiobooks I read are library books, and 50% of the books I read are audiobooks. So then 75% of the books I read are library books. Is that maths good? Anyway, I love the library. All the services it offers is great, so I love to support it. And sometimes I even like to pay my fines from the library. Like, I don't feel bad about returning a book a few days late because then I pay fines, which means my library gets money, which isn't a bad thing. I know some people don't like fines, but I don't mind them because I can afford them. I think they should be totally dropped for people who can't afford them, but for me, it's just like a donation. I do, however, like to buy books that I really love. I basically tell myself that I can buy books if I would reread them or I would want to lend them out to other people like my sister and my cousins and any of my friends. Not that many of my friends read the same books as me, but if I would reread a book or I'd want to lend it out, then I will consider buying it. I haven't been buying books for a long time because I haven't had a job, but oh, we are going to be buying some books soon because I did just get a new job. So that's going to be potentially dangerous, and I'm going to try not to buy too many books. That's the risk. Because, like, this is enough shelf space, really, for me to have for books. I don't really want my shelves to take over any more of my house than that. Because I think that would be ridiculous in terms of, like, I'll just never reread that many books and lend out that many books. Maybe one day in the future I could have a whole room as a library, though. Maybe. The next question is a book you dislike that everyone else seems to love. And just recently I listened to the audiobook of Scythe by Neil Shusterman, and it made me really angry. And primarily, I just thought the world building and the plot were full of holes and not really developed properly. But when I watch people's reviews for people who really love that book, it seems that the thing they really like is the world building and the plot. I don't understand that. I've tried to understand. I don't understand. I will say though that I just read Thunderhead and I liked it a lot better, so phew. The next question is bookmarks or dog ears. For a long time, I used to always dog ear my books to keep track of the pages. But then one day my sister saw me doing it and she looked at me like I was the most despicable person in the whole universe, and I thought, oh, maybe I should stop doing that, especially with library books and borrowed books. Probably it is kind of a dick move, so I stopped doing that. But I kind of hate bookmarks because I always find you open the book and you put them down while you're reading and then they're gone. I don't know how it happens. They must go into the same universe that guitar picks go into. They're just gone. So for a long time, bookmarks were a problem for me, and I would do the thing where you like memorize the page number or just like leave the book open, which obviously isn't a good solution either because it cracks the spine. Then I got these bookmarks. So these are called book jigs. You can get them online. My local bookshop has them. And basically, you just slip them onto the front cover and then you have like a ribbon and you can just put it into the book. And when you're reading, you just put it over there and it doesn't get lost. They're amazing. I love them. The only thing is sometimes you do have to be careful because they're metal, and if you don't put them on right, or if the book is in really pristine condition, I won't use them because they can sometimes dent the book, especially if you're like throwing it in a bag or something with this bookmark on. So they're not perfect, but they're close to perfect. Anyway, I don't dog ear anymore, so don't judge me. The next question is a book you can always reread, and I don't think I have an answer for this. I don't reread a lot, because I just have such a massive list of books that I want to read for the first time that even when I do want to reread books, I just never find the time. So I just can't think of a book that I've reread multiple times that I know could count for this. Maybe the Babysitter's Club books, because I read those when I was a kid and they're super easy to read and quite nostalgic. They're kind of fun, but not necessarily like amazing if you didn't read them as a kid. Anyway, that's my best answer. The next question is, can you read while listening to music? Maybe. I don't normally. Normally, in terms of working and reading, I like silence because I want to be 100% focused on the thing that I'm doing. Possibly I could read if it was completely instrumental, but if there's lyrics, I just don't see the point in trying to do both at the same time because you're just distracting your mind and you can't really focus on both of them. So trying to do both is just going to be slowing down or like reducing your ability to do either in a quality way. Or maybe some of you are just amazing with your multitasking abilities, but no, I can't do that. Then the next question is one point of view or multiple. This is definitely an it depends question. It depends on the story that's being told. There are some that really suit being told from one perspective, some that really need those multiple perspectives to tell the story properly. And I think as long as the author has made that decision right, then it doesn't matter. The next question is, do you read a book in one sitting or over multiple days? It's very rare for me to be able to read a book in one sitting. And unless it's something super, super short, I don't think I have the attention span for it. And I almost like spreading it out a little bit more because it gives you a little bit more time to think about what you're reading. There have been a few times where I've really rushed to read a book in a short amount of time, and then I feel like I've almost missed the full experience. And then the last question is, who do you tag? And I am 100% not organized, so I haven't planned for this. Maybe I'll think of some people and leave them down below. But basically, if you have got to this point in the video and you want to do this tag, you have a place where you can share some bookish things, then consider yourself tagged. Just do it. It's easy. You've got free will. You can do whatever you want. Otherwise, that is all for me today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.